Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crosover podcast. I'm back finally. It's been a long hiatus, but school has been a little chaotic, and I'm just happy to be back. I have a lot of fun episodes planned over break, so be on the lookout for that. We have some of the favorite special guests from the past returning on some episodes. Hopefully we have some big names coming. But that really kind of remains to be seen. Gotta tighten up some of those plans. But anyways, today's episode is going to be an album review of Nettspend new album, Badass Effing Kid. I have a lot to say about it because I was one of those guys who, when Net was originally kind of blowing up, when he went viral last year on Twitter, not only Twitter, but he went viral on social media. And I was like, "Who? This kid's 16 years old. He's rapping about pouring up, and he like guns and like club. Like, I know you're lying. I know it's a lot of cap rap, but he's grown on me. When I heard Nothing Like You for the first time, I was blown away by the beat. Not much of his performance really stood out to me. It had to kind of grow on me, and that's kind of the artist he is. It's like if you like him, you like him, and if you don't, you probably think he makes the worst music you've ever heard. Anyways, let me hop right into it and talk about my favorite songs. I'll start out with the positives, and then I do have quite a bit of a long list of negatives here. But my favorite songs on this album, Project Pat, and then we have a nice 3-song run from Cancer, Skipping Class, and Beach Leak. That's a very solid 3-song run. And then all the way down to tracks 11 and 12. Drop the Blunt and PERC Soda are 2 more of my favorites. We have the opener, Growing Up, which Net speaks on growing up and maturing and the fact that he kind of wants to stay locked into the 16, 17-year-old stage and phase he is in life and the uncomfortability with the unknown that is growing up, which is kind of a theme that is touched on throughout the album. So the opener does a good job of giving the audience a taste of what they're in for. It's one of the slower tracks that I've heard Nettspend release, but it's a solid opener. However, it's a hit or miss album. I think this is not one that's for everyone. And even my favorite songs, I think a lot of my friends, even my friends that like rap music, would not listen to. Because Nettspend is a polarizing kind of artist. And I was on the side of he's trash. I think it's either you think he's great or you think it's the worst music you've ever heard. And I was on the worst music I've ever heard side until Nothing Like You came out, which was one of my favorite songs of the year. I listened to it probably way too many times. But what I will say is that showed me a glimpse of what I think his potential is. It's kind of a love song, which he surprisingly executes well when he talks about love, which is a little bit surprising because Nettspend's a really not a great songwriter, and his flows are not conventional, and he doesn't make the most sensible bars. He's not a good writer. I'll just come out and say it. But he does have an ability to make catchy songs. He has the ability to make some catchy flows and rhymes, and honestly, he has some laughable bars. They're almost laughably bad, but that's the childish energy and kind of the kiddish part about him that draws me to his music sometimes. In Project Pat, he says, "I can't make a song with you because you suck." And the first time I heard that, I was like really? Did he really just say that? But there are some of those like bars where you go back and you're kind of laughing to yourself, like, is this really what I'm listening to? Is this really how low the bar is lyrically that we're listening to this? And yes, it is, but I'm not one of the guys who's listening to music for the lyrical aspect. I'm a big production guy. I'm a big vibes guy. If it sounds good to me, I don't really care what they're saying. But with that said, I think there are some points on this album where Nettspend really goes into the just nonsense, and that's not for me. I think that his target audience is kids a few years younger than me who, kind of like that. I've seen the term post rage, but I don't even know if that's a good way to describe it. It's rage music, rage, even though I hate that word to describe the genre of rap, but it's that, but saturated and compressed a million times over on songs like Leader, Shut Up, Bird Box, Laughin'. Those type of songs I'm not a big fan of because I just feel like that deviates so far from the rap music that I like, and even the production that I like. I like melodic production, songs like Skipping Class and Project Pat. I really enjoy because it's a synth heavy. The drums aren't too crazy. They're not too compressed, and that's kind of OK's sound. OK was the executive producer of this. The producer tag, which a lot of people are probably familiar with. But his sound is kind of the compressed drums and really, really saturated, deep-fried sounding instrumentals, which I'm not the biggest fan of. But when he goes in the other lane and he produced Nothing Like You, when he has songs like even Tyla or Skipping Class, that's the lane that I enjoy him in a little bit more. But with that said, I will now go into the negatives of this album, which are just that the songs, there's 5-6 songs that I name that are saved to my library, songs that I would come back to. But the other 8, I would probably never re-listen to, and it's just because I just don't think they're very great. As I said a minute or two ago, they're very compressed, and they have a lot going on. They're very chaotic, and with Nettspend not being very good lyrically, combine that with a song that maybe doesn't have the strongest instrumental, and that gives me zero reason to go back. That track has zero replay value to me. But I think another issue is that his voice really isn't great. It's not a standout voice. It's not a voice that you'll want to come back to because of that. Because he's 17. He has a very juvenile sounding voice. And the only way to kind of make his voice cut through the chaotic beats that he typically uses is a lot of autotune, and at times that just doesn't really sound good to me, and I think it could be a little bit too much. I also just think that, and this isn't a complaint, but I realize that why people don't like it is this is, as I said earlier, this is a sound that not everyone likes, and I feel like it's very hyper-specific for his fan base. So even me, somewhat fan of him, I don't like some of these songs very much, and I feel like they could have definitely been left off because his 2 lead singles, Swag and Nothing Like You, really stood out to me, and I really like those. But I don't think he built on that sound on the album, which I was a little bit disappointed by. I think that this album is what it sounds like if you give a 17-year-old kid a major label budget to make an album. Because, I mean, that's what he is. But I would have liked a bit more of a refined sound. Maybe I'm wrong for saying that because it's his first album, but I did expect a lot because he has very aesthetically pleasing music videos. He has a good sense of kind of art direction, and his merch is good, and his advertising and his promotional pictures are really well done, in my opinion. And part of that is because who he surrounds himself with, like Joy Division, longtime collaborator with Playboi Carti, was working with him. That's definitely a reason why. But I think he has a solid vision. I'm just not sure if that vision is always executed in the music. And he's one of these new gen rappers who I would kind of say their aesthetic and their vibe might outweigh their musical prowess. With that being said, I enjoyed some of this project. There's definitely some really solid songs and there's potential, but as it's his debut album, it's his first album. He hasn't really been an artist for that long, so in time, I'm sure he will evolve, and I feel like there's only up from here because it's not a terrible album, but I don't think this album was one that people are going to hear and go, yeah, he's next up. What I would like him to kind of evolve is his songwriting abilities, and they really don't need to be great. They don't, but they just need to be a little bit better. That's all I'm asking for. It just sounds... Some of his lyrics are abysmal. I can write better songs than he does at times. He has high highs, but he has... Or I wouldn't say high highs, but he has some highs. But he has some very, very low lows, which for a debut album, they should not have been on the track list. Then again, a lot of his younger fans really enjoy the rage, the crazy ADHD kind of songs that are just like a million things coming at you at once. They're just stim songs, is what I call them. But with that being said, I would give this album a 6.4. I think a 6.4 is a fair rating. He's probably at a less than 50% hit percentage if I go through hit or miss. But there are some songs that I really like a lot and that have been heavy in rotation. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there. That's Nettspend, Badass Effing Kid, debut album, 6.4. I think if you listen to this album, let me know what your favorite songs were. Let me know what you think about it. I was pleasantly surprised at points, but I was also disappointed at others. But he's 17, and it's his first project, so I feel like it's a pretty solid outcome. If you made it this far, like, subscribe, share, everything. I have a lot of good episodes coming over winter break, and I will see you soon.